All right, guys.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the United Stand. I'm here with Adam, I'm here with Ricky, I'm here with Kev. I think Ricky's lighting and room right now is reflecting possibly the mood that we're all feeling. I mean, 24 hours ago, team news was just coming out. Everyone was excited for the game. Me and Adam were doing our little previews outside Old Trafford, and then the match unfolded and you saw very different moods in our fan vlogs last night and very different moods on the fan forum as well, Kev, which I watched on the way home. And we discussed it. The season practically over now, people are saying. I mean, I don't know. I've not heard Ricky's thoughts on whether he thinks we can get top four, but we'll get on to them afterwards. But, I mean, coming into the show today, we'll start with you, Adam. How are you feeling now compared to how you felt last night? And how are you feeling about the team? How are you feeling about Rangnick? Where does the blame lie for you?
Oh, the blame lies solely within the structure of the football club. We know the owners are a problem. Some people argue since Sir Alex Ferguson left, we spent over $1 billion. So they would say they've put money in, but it's the people that they've put in place to make them money that are running the club into the ground as such. And it's just a combination of losing one of the best managers to walk the planet, and then year after year after year after year of mismanaging both the football side of things. Now we're seeing the end of it, I think. We're pretty much now, in my opinion, hitting close to rock bottom. And I don't think it can get any worse than this. Obviously, at worst would be Europa Conference if we get stuck in that for next season. But honestly, right now, with this group of players, I'm sure everyone's seen, and we'll talk about Rashford's incident, the connection with the fans and the players right now is the worst I've ever felt. The blame solely lies in an accumulation of years of mistreatment of the squad, the way the club is run. And ultimately, like I just said then, we're seeing the back end of it now. And this next generation of football fan is in for... Our next generation of United football fan is in for a real rough ride, Beth, because there's no sign of this getting any better. In fact, I do believe it's going to get worse before it gets better, and probably has to. I think a reality check is needed, and I think the owners now and the people that are running the club are going to get that reality check, because they're running out of managers, they're running out of players that are going to want to come to the club, and ultimately they're going to have to restructure everything, and it is a complete rebuild. And right now, honestly, I've said it last night, it is worse than David Moyes' season for me. This takes some beating, that, but with the players that we've got, this is worse than David Moyes 100%, Beth. And that's how I feel right now. I've sort of made my feelings known on social media today. I've took myself to the gym, zoned out for a couple of hours just to calm myself down, let it all settle. And then we're probably going to watch a great game of football after tonight with Arsenal and Liverpool and just sit there and go, if only that was us playing decent football. And that's not just Liverpool, by the way, sadly.
That's the thing as well, Ricky. Obviously, the game on after this, Arsenal-Liverpool, it's one of them where you don't want Liverpool to win the title, but it's Arsenal, we need them to lose for Manchester United's top four hopes to even still exist. First of all, I wanted to ask you, do you think there is a chance of us still getting top four after seeing the results recently? And second of all, I saw Paul Scholes giving Ralf Rangnick a bit of stick last night after the game about how he managed the game and him being in charge of Manchester United basically at the moment. Is he the right coach to do it? Have you been impressed with Rangnick after, obviously we're out of all competitions now, I think it's fair judgment time to say. Have you been impressed with him so far?
No, not at all. I think there was 2 or 3 questions in one there, Beth. One, I've not been impressed with Rangnick. Can we still get top 4? You said absolutely, definitely we can. You mentioned Arsenal are playing Liverpool shortly, and you said we need Arsenal to lose. If they just pick up a point, it'd do me. Obviously it'd be great if Arsenal lost for us, but I don't want Liverpool to win it. I'd be over the moon with a draw. And when you look at Arsenal's games in hand, one's definitely Liverpool tonight, one's Chelsea away, and I believe one's Spurs, I read. I don't know if that's absolutely... Those are games in hand. It could easily be that they get maybe, I don't know, a defeat and a couple of draws in those 3 games. So it might not be as a wider gap as it appears as though it could be. Look, in football, anything's possible. They could go and win all 3. Then we've got 10 points to make up, which isn't going to happen. But, you know, looking at the fixtures that they've got for games in hand, it's definitely doable. It's far from over, but we have got to start playing better. Am I impressed with the manager? Definitely not. Definitely not. No. And you mentioned earlier, I think it might have been before we went live, I mean, is there a job from him upstairs? I don't get all that. People, look, there's nothing wrong with loyalty, but there's something wrong with blind loyalty. And a new man comes to a club and everybody wants him to be fantastic. I'm desperate for him to be fantastic, like a new player who comes to the club. I'm desperate for the manager to be fantastic. I'm desperate for the players to be fantastic. But the mistakes I'm seeing him make, that I see as mistakes, really poor mistakes in selection terms. I mean, look, just one. I could name loads. But, you know, we're playing against probably one of the best the best defensively coached team possibly in the world. And Marcus Rashford's having such a poor season, and we're bringing him on to try and make a difference. What on earth? As soon as it happened, I was scratching my head. Alanga was having a decent game. So sometimes the fans, I can understand being impatient, but a coach should have more about him. That game was proper, evenly balanced, and we needed one goal to be back in it. There was no need for drastic changes. 3 changes all at once was a disgrace, and one of them being Marcus Rashford. The way he's been playing, you know, I'm not a fan of his. I've been saying that for 2 or 3 years, but I think everybody's onto him at the minute that he's playing poorly. Why bring him on to try to open up probably the best defensive coach team in the league? What I would have done last night, I would have just swapped wings. I'd like to see Sancho's playing okay on the left, but I'd like to see him getting balls in from the right with his right peg. And Alanga's good in the air, he's sharp, he gets himself in the box. If we had Sancho on the right wing and Alanga on the left wing, I think Alanga would get quite a few goals over a period of time. Obviously, over a period of time, he's no good last night, but you never know. If you'd have just switched their wings last night, we might have nicked a goal through it. And you've got to try little things like that, not wholesale changes. It's embarrassing.
Well, that was an obvious thing for me, actually. I thought, we're not getting nowhere near enough crosses into the box here, constantly trying to play narrow, and it just wasn't working. I mean, you've got Ronaldo dropping massively deep, and you need him in the box, really. You need to be getting crosses in, and that was one thing. Sancho wasn't playing particularly well on the left, in my opinion, and it could have been an idea to move him over. It could have been an idea to get the fullbacks a bit higher up the pitch, but then you've got to look at the defensive line. Kev, in your opinion last night, and with Rangnick as a whole, do you think he has a job upstairs for Man United? Do you want him to stay on? Obviously, whether that is in the coaching role or whether that is helping the next manager out.
I am only sort of in favour of Rangnick staying on if Manchester United can't get their supposed top target or somebody that I suppose us as supporters feel is a right fit for Manchester United. Otherwise, I don't see where they go. Do we go back down the old route? I'm hearing some kind of nonsense today that Owen Hargreaves has thrown, Gary Neville's name in. He should be going in as some kind of wingman to someone. And I'm like, Gary Neville, we've been down this route, haven't we? How many times we've tried the ex-player thing, right? We've been down the route of Carrick, Giggs, we've been tried surrounding this club. We've got Darren Fletcher, for Christ's sake, getting a yellow card last night and then standing like a naughty schoolboy, slithering back in at the background like that Homer Simpson meme. And you're like, oh, what is he even doing? What's Darren Fletcher doing? I get it sometimes. You need to surround yourself with players that have played for the club. But I don't know. I really think these days that players are not really, I don't think they rise to that kind of thing. And I know the Bayern Munich model, that's worked for them and they surround themselves with ex-legends and that. But Manchester United now, I look at the playing staff and that, and I've said many times before, I've never felt so disconnected from a group of players. I think I could probably name maybe 3 or 4 players there that I would like to keep. And even at that stage, if I'm going to throw David De Gea in, I'd probably even go and look and go, do you know what? I feel like Manchester United have actually failed David De Gea. And I think he's kind of wasted the better years of his career at Manchester United. That lad should be winning trophies. He should be competing for trophies.
Kev, you're right, mate. Kev, you're right. I think I said last night, and what you just said there, mate, that finishing team and the finishing team last night in a knockout Champions League game for Manchester United, you would expect that to be your best. Half of that team are gone in the summer. I was like, well, it's a clear problem right there, isn't it, really? If you can look at that team and go, wow, half of them are gone in the summer. And that's our best. That's the best we've got. Massive issues.
Huge problem.
Well, that's the thing. I saw something on a stat before. I think it's Ronaldo's first trophyless season in 13 years. And I thought to myself, that's called the United effect, isn't it? And do you know what? There was people having a pop at Rangnick, and I agree. I don't agree with his substitutions. I didn't agree with a few things he did last night. And I do think if you had a manager like Simeone, experienced European manager who's played this competition numerous times with our team last night, I think we would have won. I 100% think that. But Adam, that's still not an excuse for the... And people say harsh saying the attitude of these players, but going into that game last night, do you agree with me that there was a naivety around that team? And the problem for me starts from the back. It starts from the leadership, the management of the team. You need more winners in that team. And I thought there was a naivety and a weak mentality about that team. I thought they let the refs get in their head. I thought they played straight into Atletico's hands. And I think mentality-wise, they dropped out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I was speaking with Graham, one of the regular fan bloggers. We need to put, by the way, we need to get Graham and Ricky on the show at one point. That would be interesting. That'd be a great chat, that one. But I said to people, and they said, what was it like? Because we're talking about their fans coming in and how good their fans were. Because I was there in Madrid, and me and you've seen, Beth, firsthand exactly how passionate their fans were. And it got into a conversation of, what do you think it's going to be like tonight? I said, watch what this team does when they haven't got the ball. I guarantee United will have over 60% possession tonight because that's Simeone's game plan. Go watch these guys off the ball. Watch where they win their games off the ball. Simple as that. They haven't got bundles of quality. They don't keep the ball well. But what they do is stay to their structure, and they stay to their methods. In terms of character and sort of like leaders, mentality, winners, I counted we had 2 World Cup winners coming on in them 5 substitutes, 2 Champions League winners coming on in them 5 substitutes. So you have to ask the biggest question you have to ask is the mentality of them players coming on, and do they really want to be coming onto that pitch? Because for me, the only 2 were Matic and Mata who actually came out with any credit, and there's no future in that. We know they're both mid-30 players. We know they're not the future Man United, and that's been the old argument all the time. We cannot play them week in, week out. For me, we're talking about Mata getting a leading coaching badge and going on as a coach next season. And he's our saviour coming on off the bench in the Champions League knockout game. You've got another academy player there in Jesse Lingard who doesn't want to play for the football club. Actually sat there. He can't get on off 5 substitutes. That is an absolute disgrace for me. An absolute disgrace. So for me, the mentality and that sort of naivety that you're talking about, Beth, there, Mata and Matic showed their experience last night.
Yeah.
Matic should have been playing instead of McTominay from the start for me last night because he changed the game in Madrid. We've both seen that. I thought he was a shoo-in. But there's this Scott McTominay thing, which just every time he's fit, he plays. And I would say, you could say Rangnick was at fault for, I thought, the starting lineup in certain areas. I didn't agree with it. And everyone knows I'm a Rangnick backer. But I didn't agree with that. I didn't agree with some of the substitutes. I didn't think we needed that many. I agree with Ricky on that. In the end, though, his hands are tied behind his back because he's got players that are checked out coming on off the bench. There's no more options for him there. But I do believe the starting lineup could have been better more. And the players just didn't give him enough, in my opinion, Beth.
I agree that I think from the start, we should have started the game. People say we played well in the first half, and I thought we did for moments in the game.
We competed. That was it.
We competed, but that's where the standards are at. And I thought we should have started the game differently and ended it differently with a different lineup, to be honest with you. Rick, did you have something you wanted to come in and say?
Yeah, when we spoke about Juan Mata coming on, I think you all know I'm a massive fan of Juan Mata. And I think
really? I didn't know, Ricky, tell me.
I think he gets drastically underused, absolutely drastically underused. It's a crying shame how little game time he gets. And when you asked me earlier about what I think about Rangnick, I'd like to ask him this question. We didn't manage to beat Watford at home, and we didn't manage to beat Burnley the other week. He didn't bring Juan Mata on in those games to try and open up Watford and Burnley. So what makes him bring him on to try and open up Atletico Madrid? Don't get me wrong, I'd do it, but you know, I'd have had him on a lot earlier. I'd have had him on instead of Rashford on the right. A lot of people think, oh, pace. Forget pace. Get hold of the ball, pass it, get them moving around. And there's one matter when we do use him, or when other managers have used him, they tend to use him on the right a lot. That would have been my move, Juan Mata and not Rashford. But you know, I'd also flip that on its head. You know, if he didn't bring him on against Watford, him on against Watford and Burnley, why bring him on against Atletico Madrid? And the other way round, if you're going to bring him on against Atletico Madrid, why didn't you bring him on against Watford and Burnley when we needed a goal? It just doesn't make sense.
It is the amount of substitutions, isn't it? Yeah.
But I also think as well, the problem is he obviously brought Pogba and Matic on and he brought Rashford on, and I thought I felt we looked like we had no creativity whatsoever. And he's already bought Bruno off. Maybe he brings Mata on to try and inject some creativity in the last 10 minutes.
There's no future in Mata at all. But there are games that Mata suits, and with that low block defence, Mata would probably be ideal for coming on in that game earlier on, because you did need that little bit, because we're getting time on the ball in the final third, but we just can't do anything with it. And sometimes you just have to change tact. And I understand that for Mata coming on. But I do believe, I'm not like saying, I agree with you, Beth, and Kev, it is because there's 5 substitutes and Rangnick's got his hands tied behind his back. I'm still convinced that there is something there that makes these players have to be picked. There's no logic in it. He's a football man. He's been everywhere and he has a philosophy, and his philosophy, and everyone's listened to the interviews, he's not doing it at United. Why is he not doing it at United? This is the biggest stage for him to show what he's got, and he can't do it. There is something deep lying within this until these players are out. I said it outside. I keep saying it. If Rangnick had the under-23s, we'd make top 4. That's what I'd said. Well, if he had the under-23s, they'd listen to him. This lot, I tell you, it's like Kev said, the disconnect from the fans and this bunch of players is horrific. It's the worst I've seen, and they just don't care. They do not care.
Well, you saw in itself, Kev, Harry Maguire was substituted off. The captain in our biggest game of the season had one of the poorest performances I've seen, and got substituted off to the crowd cheering that substitution. I mean, doesn't that just show where we're at? Like, you've seen Keane, you've seen Vidic, you've seen Cantona, you've seen these players, but captain Manchester United, and they step up in these big games. They are the difference. They're leading from the back. They're organised. They're telling people his position, his job. I thought the back line was unorganised a lot of the night. I thought Varane was great. I thought Maguire was constantly out of position, constantly putting us under pressure, and he's meant to be able to play out from the back. I thought every time he got the ball, I was worried. And to come off to cheers from the fans, I mean, you can't win anything when that's happening. Surely
they were cheers, jeers, sarcastic applaud. It got to the point where it was like, "Way, finally get him off." Another one who, for weeks and weeks, months, whatever, he's literally getting in that Manchester United team because he's got the captain's armband, and it's no good. He was no good last night. I thought he was positional sense, everything. He just breeds uncertainty. And there was a couple of instances where he passes back to David De Gea. There was one where he gave the ball back to De Gea, and De Gea went absolutely mental after it. He must have been looking as if to say, "Are you mad? What are you giving me the ball back here for?" And he's got no confidence. There is absolutely no confidence in that team at all. Saturday was a bit of a false dawn. Ronaldo gets a hat-trick. Yay, we're back on track. But as with Manchester United, it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And that has been the story of our season so far, that on the 15th of March yesterday, I personally feel United season's over. I'd love to share Ricky's optimism there that if Arsenal lose a few games and that, fair enough. If you're a glass half empty, half full kind of guy, whatever. But for me, I just think the players, and I asked myself the question at the start of the season, if we'd have got a new manager then, would a new manager get an extra, 20-30% out of these players? And I firmly believe that. We've got a new manager, and it seems to have got worse. I think some of the performances probably under Solskjaer were better than some that I've seen under Rangnick. Now, is it a fitness thing? Are these players just not up to it because they've had 3 years of being at Boot Carrington, where they've been arriving at whatever time they want and basically doing whatever they want? They've not had intense training. Does anybody think, right, if we were to get a Guardiola or a Klopp now and they come in, would they make a difference with this current crop of players? Because like Adam says, it's really difficult to touch on. Is it just a bad blend of personalities? Maybe too many players on top wages that aren't doing it? And you know, in any walk of life, if you're on a building site and somebody else is on £3 more than you an hour, but you graft harder than them, you're going to go to your boss and ask questions. And we've kind of opened that door, I always felt, with Alexis Sanchez when we signed him at Manchester United. And I think that's been a major problem for United financially, and other players and unrest in the dressing room.
Well, that's the thing. You can tell, I think no matter what the squad says, you can tell it's so disconnected. You can tell there's lack of leadership on that field. I mean, you can see it within De Gea, you can see it within Matic, but the team looks lost. And I also think the leaks about them not being a fan of Rangnick and not thinking he's up to it and thinking he's just an interim could be true. This is players that haven't won much and a lot, and they just don't seem to have that mentality that you need. And I think it will bring us on to what we're going to talk about for the rest of the show. But I think a massive rebuild is needed. But before we get on to that, a player that has come under quite a lot of scrutiny, Ricky, you've been very vocal about the fact you don't think this player is good enough. And he's going to get criticism for his recent performances, which is Marcus Rashford. And obviously, a lot of people have seen that video that came out on social media. And from my perspective, it was like, I don't mind him having a little pop at someone for criticising him. That's my personal opinion. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As he said, he is human. But the fact he's got to come out and put this massive paragraph on Twitter explaining the whole situation, I don't feel a need for it. And that, to me, kind of shows what we've been saying for quite a while. It's a lot about the brand with these players, isn't it?
Well, I've been thinking for quite a while that we seem to pick some players, I think, that have just got a massive social media following, and you know, I've heard it said that they're that valuable because they've got such a massive social media following. I don't understand all that. As I say, to me, it's what happens on the football pitch that matters to me. You mentioned this about Marcus just before we went live, and I didn't know anything about it. And I don't agree with it, standing outside the stadium, you know, yelling at a foot. You know, I know I've said it on these shows, but you know, you have pundits on the TV telling you what they think about players. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying what you think. What's the point of? There's no point going on a show and lying. You know, you think this player's great when you don't think he's great, and I'm sure some of them do that on the TV. By the way, I think some of them bottle it about saying what they really think. You know what I mean? I'm sure they do, but there are one or two who will say what they think. So I think, you know, that's part and parcel of football. But I don't agree with standing outside a football ground and giving it to a footballer. You know, I'm always a great believer. I know I've heard you, all of you on here at times saying that they're not trying. I'm a great believer in footballers do try. I played only amateur football, but I played football till I was 40. Never went onto a football pitch and didn't try my best. I had some stinkers, of course I did, but it was never because I wasn't trying my best. Do you know what I mean? So I like to think that players are trying their best. Then another thing about football as well, by the way, is you can't switch adrenaline on and off yourself. You haven't got a key to just switch it on and off. Like I've just said, I played a lot of football, and I played in some games where you're playing against a team who you think you're going to get battered by, and you're really up for it, and you're really keyed up for it, and you go and beat these. Well, not always, but sometimes you go and beat these teams that you expect to lose to. Then you play against a team who you think you're going to beat, and no matter how hard you try, it doesn't seem to work for you. And I'm sure that must happen at all levels of football. So, you know, you try. I mean, we probably tried our best against City and still got beat 4-1. But but I believe the players are trying the best. But it's just that, you know, as far as I'm concerned, some of them are not good enough, and that's the end of it.
one question to come back at you on that one is, we know that you've not rated Rashford for quite a long time, but recently, even you have to admit, it's gotten worse.
He does look forlorn on the pitch. I think that's a little bit different to being disinterested. He's just not switched on, and I don't know what it is. Whether the pressure's getting to him of obviously his form being poor and going from bad to worse. Really, maybe there's that pressure, but I still don't believe that in his own head he doesn't think that he's trying his best.
Yeah, exactly. Like you bring players into this environment, and sometimes you can't criticize it, but some players have thicker skin than others, and that criticism can get to players. It depends on how you take things.
On that, Beth. Yeah. Sorry, just coming on that. There, it's like we're talking about these players at the moment and the effort. And I know someone who drives coaches, who drives player coaches. Actually, he drives all different clubs. So he drives the City Academy, he drives the United Academy, sometimes drives the first team ones. And he says the difference in attitude from City to Manchester United is night and day. Now look at what I would say 3 big problems that we've got right now at this football club. Jesse Lingard, Marcus Rashford, dare I say it, Mason Greenwood, our academy players. You've got Scott McTominay who thinks he can come out and say what he wants in interviews. These players are bred with this arrogance at the moment, I believe, and it's flooding through into a point where they think they've made it. And a lot of people have mentioned this, but just look at the players that I've named there and look at the attitudes of these players. You've got one player there who's just on social media dicing with, flaunting West Ham jerseys and West Ham signs. Well, he's a United player. Let's not mention the obvious. Then you've got Marcus Rashford thinking he can walk outside. And I understand pressure, but a player has to have the professionalism, and that should have been the first thing that they were taught as footballers. When you come through to this first team, you have respect for the fans. They're match-going fans. They're people that have travelled from all over the world to come and see. You've just played crap. And not all of them were shouting and giving abuse. They'd just be the minority. But they have to rise above that for the sake of the other people there with their kids. And then people that have travelled from all over the world, match-going fans, to come and see their heroes. Not everyone gets to see Manchester United players. He has to understand that. I just think that they think they've already made it. And it's no coincidence that the issues we've got right now are coming from our academy players. And these ones that have been fast-tracked, some would say maybe too soon, think they've already made it. For me, I think he's a big part of the problem. And I go back to what I said at the start of the show and the structure and the way this club is being run at the moment. I just hope this next crop, because this next crop of young kids that are coming through are vital. It's the best that we've had in over a decade. And they look like they've got their heads screwed on. So do not waste this opportunity right now. Get something in place this summer. At least salvage our youth system, because every other part of this football club is falling apart. We're falling behind in training facilities. We haven't even got enough room to fit our women's team in there. The stadium is, let's not even get into it. The attitude of the players, they're overpaid. And this is where I believe the problem is. The structure from above and the mistakes that they've made. That, for me, is... I can see it's all coming to fruition right now, and this is where our major problem is.
And would you say a major part of Manchester United has been the team captain? Because what you've just said there, and you're absolutely spot on. You mentioned obviously Greenwood, Rashford, Lingard, homegrown players. I think even back to Kieran Richardson, he was one that thought he'd made it at Manchester United. Now, still made a career in football, but never hit the heights. Now, the captain at the time was Roy Keane. And Roy Keane, infamously, the interview that he gave to MUTV at the time, which sadly seen him leave United and the tape was put in an incinerator that nobody ever got to see that interview again. He was one of the players, Roy Keane, that he was scathing of. And I think he was going along the lines of these young players that are coming through think they've made it. Even to an extent, and I know he's not a homegrown player, but you could say Memphis Depay. Once he'd signed for Manchester United, didn't he turn up in like a cowboy hat and a pink Rolls Royce to train in? Apparently Rooney wanted to knock his head clean off his shoulders. There you go. You know, there's another player in Wayne Rooney who had made it. He's been captain. He's a leader. He's driven like that. What I'm trying to say is do we have players like that in our team now? That when these younger ones are coming through, is Harry Maguire going to do that? Is he going to say, "Come on, lads, keep on the straight and narrow"? You know, look at what I've done.
Kev, yeah. Sorry, Kev, you bang on, because let's not forget about that Ronaldo interview as well. He's come in and seen problem, and he was alluding to younger players, if they want my advice.
Yeah.
Can you see where it's going? They've bled this into these younger players and thrown the world at them. And look at them. Look at the failures. Look at the fall off. It's catastrophic. It's so far they've fallen. It's just like they do believe they've made the fact that with Marcus Rashford's on more money than Mo Salah. He's just outrageous. It's outrageous.
You've seen Ralf Rangnick as well say that players should take a leaf out of Anthony Elanga's book. His attitude, his humbleness, the way he's willing to work.
Shining light, yeah. And cling on to it.
And it's like, you see, I don't want to, because you continually bring up competitors, but Phil Foden, one of the best English talents we've had in a while, he was drip-fed into that City team. Everyone was complaining about the little game time he was getting. He had none of the spotlight on him whatsoever. He just casually, Pep, I thought, integrated him so well, and some people were saying possibly too slow. And we get players and they'll have some moments and you put them straight into that team, you give them the number 10 shirt, etc., and you're like, that's you now. You go.
Look at that, Beth. Yeah.
They're not ready.
Look at that. Yeah, look at that. That mentality kicks in there as well. Sorry. But Greenwood and Foden, what happened in that England issue when they both got done? Look who accepted it. Look who moved on from it and took it on the chin. He's back in the England team. No coincidence, even before all this kicked off with Greenwood, that Southgate wasn't even giving him the time of day. And we were all asking the question, why? Other managers are seeing it. People from the outside are seeing it. And look at all the young England players now that are not getting into this England team. It's bleeding out. It's out. You know what I mean? They're being outed right now and they don't like it. They're lashing out and their world is caving in right now. There's no one else to help them because all these sort of babysitters that they've had over the last few years, they're disappearing. Not surprised that the social media PR brothers, whoever it is running the social media accounts, are working overtime to try and salvage their careers right now. Because Rashford's contract is up next year. What the hell is going to happen with that? Because there'll be outrage.
Yeah.
I think the main thing you can take from it all is it absolutely screams arrogance when Ronaldo's had to come out and do an interview outing players for not wanting to listen to him. One of the greatest footballers of all time, and you think you're too good to listen to him. You can understand where the issues are, and I think we need a manager to come in and take complete control of that team, ship players out, wean out people that have got the growth mentality, wean out people that haven't got the mentality to be Manchester United players, and really take control of that team and be allowed control over it. And on to the next manager, because we are going to get a new manager at the end of this season. I think we'd all be gobsmacked if it does end up being Rangnick. I don't think it's going to be. I'll move on to each one of you. I'll start with you, Ricky. Is there anyone in particular right now that you want as Manchester United manager? And obviously everyone get your comments in as well, who you think, who you want to take over the role at Manchester United?
At the game last night, I was sat next to pardon the pun, Adam, but I sat next to a lad who I didn't know from Adam. And we started chatting and he said to me, he said, I've been saying for ages, he said, the manager we should be getting is him. This is in the first half, we don't know we're going to get knocked out at this stage. He's saying, we need him in charge. He won't take any nonsense. You can see the way he organises his teams. And I said to him, I'll tell you what, mate, I won't argue against it one little bit. I've been saying for ages that I'd take Pochettino, I'd take Ten Hag. I don't think there's a chance of getting him to leave Atletico Madrid. But a lot of people say, oh, it's too defensive. I just want us to start playing proper football and defending properly and team shape being better and camaraderie. The camaraderie in their team, you can see it working for one another and just working so hard. And anybody who wants to maybe come in the comments and say, oh, we don't want to defend like that, we're Manchester United. We need to start being competitive against good teams. I mean, if they draw Liverpool or City in the next round, they'll give them a right run for the money, I think. They'll probably get knocked out by a team of that quality. But I bet you they give them a run for the money if they get one of them really good sides in the next round. And we need a manager who's going to lick us into shape and get us working like that, working for one another, and go from there. And, you know, hopefully you can compete with the better teams, but you need to play like that, even when you're playing the smaller teams. Look, playing like we're playing and trying to be more expansive. You know, we're not beating the likes of Watford. We're not beating I know we've said this loads of times. Goes back to last season. We didn't beat Fulham at Old Trafford when they were already relegated. Do you know what I mean? So even if we play defensive and then start pushing them teams back, we'll get better results against them than what we're getting now, even playing like he plays. And I think that's the way forward. I really do. So to answer your question, if we could get him, I'd bite your hand off.
Would you pick him if you could get anyone?
If we could get him from Atletico Madrid, I'd get him. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm one of them people that's on the fence about having to do what he did in the second half. I mean, constantly time wasting, just all the tricks in the book and the defensiveness of it all. It isn't what I'd like to see. But
can I just come back there?
Like
Beth,
go on.
Beth, can I just come back there? That's a massive game. They're away in the Lions' Den. As much as we're nothing like we used to be, we're still Manchester United. You could see. Do you see the euphoria on their bench when the final whistle went? Do you know what I mean? Don't start thinking to yourself that that's how it is every week. You know, and it wouldn't necessarily have to be like that every week. But believe me, if we started by being stronger, working for one another, and starting to beat teams and beat the lesser teams more comfortably, and then we happen to say, I don't know, let's say we go away to Liverpool and in a league game and it's 0-0. I wouldn't care one bit if that's how we were playing. Do you know what I mean? If so, you know, it's only going to be the odd game where you've got to be like that. You know, running the clock down right from the first minute.
It's about points on the board as well, and I do think Simeone would win us something. I definitely think he would win us something, and he'd be definitely one of my preferred options over other options that I've thrown out. Kev, we know, the viewers know, you're definitely on Team Ten Hag, and you wanting him this summer. But I mean, recently, obviously, this is just throwing it out there. Tuchel's been thrown into the equation, which I definitely don't think will happen. I think he'll end up staying at Chelsea, and Conte possibly might leave Spurs if things disrupt there. Would any of them kind of come in and make you question the Ten Hag decision?
They would probably make up my shortlist, I would say. I think that's quite interesting what Ricky just spoke on Simone. I think that's quite an interesting take, that, because in the heat of the moment last night after the game, obviously I'm annoyed. I'm going on about the dark arts and the football shithousery and all this of, I can't believe it, mate. I wouldn't want to watch that every week. It depends whether he could juggle that. And as Ricky rightly says, and Sir Alex Ferguson didn't used to go to Anfield, you know, and play expansive out and out 100-mile-an-hour football. We had games where we sat in like that. The thing with Simone is, and I don't know, again, it's different because if he's got a budget and he's got something more to work with, which he doesn't have there, it might be different at Manchester United. But part of me thinks, are we going back to the kind of Louis van Gaal, Mourinho days, making an appointment like that, where they tried the defensive kind of route, but we couldn't get the attacking style going? As you rightly say, the other one that a couple of weeks ago, until the Abramovich sort of problem for Chelsea arose, it is the fact that maybe possibly Tuchel could be available, which no Manchester United fan would have ever thought about. Now, that is another manager that I would look at and certainly would say would be an upgrade and a forward-thinking manager that, again, a couple of weeks ago, untouchable. You've got no chance, but you do not know what's going to happen at Chelsea. And Conte can't see Manchester United touching him because he doesn't tick all the boxes when it comes to PR and a friendly face who's going to go out there and say, tell us everything that supposedly we want to know, that we move again next week and all this. Conte will need a lot of money as well. And will the Glazers do that? It's the reason I think that Pochettino is the ideal candidate for this setup, the Glazers, and just the way that Manchester United are run. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying we've all supported United long enough, and we've been under this regime of the Glazers where we look and we go, we know exactly what they're going to do. But hopefully there's change, because that's what we've been promised with all this new structure at the club.
I mean, Pochettino is a name that a lot of fans are saying at the moment, probably for the wrong reasons, though. I mean, we put a poll on the United stand, who should be the next MUFC manager. It's got just over 17,000 votes at the moment. Erik ten Hag's leading the way with 73%, Thomas Tuchel 21%, and Mauricio Pochettino is there with 4%. So, I mean,
and I bet he voted for himself there as well. So it's about 3%.
A few different accounts, yeah, saying it. I mean, Adam, do you see it being Poch, and would you be happy with that one?
I see it being Poch, and I will be devastated if that one happens. Now, I have bigged up. I know he's plus points, but like I've said before, I think we said it on Sunday's show actually with Mark, and we said, look, this fan base just isn't going to accept him, and every single defeat, every single mistake or bad team selection is going to be scrutinised from the first game. I just don't think he's going to get the time that the other managers that you just mentioned would get on Simeone. I do believe the managers out there are very smart managers out there. Simeone is very, very smart. He is incredibly smart enough to know where he belongs, and that is staying at Atletico Madrid, because he knows what he's going to get there. He knows the fans idolizing there, even from being a player, and he ain't going anywhere. Believe me. I heard the roar for that man in that stadium and how much he is loved there. He, right now, is going nowhere from Atletico, in my opinion. I don't think he wants to come to England. I don't think he needs to come to England. And this is the problem you've got with a lot of the managers, not just Simeone. You've got to look at it and go, Ten Hag needs to make that step up, I think. Whether that be to one of the other big leagues or the Premier League, I think he's ready to go, which is why everyone's sort of looking at him. I would take Conte and Tuchel ahead of Ten Hag straight away. But the problem we've got is the squad of players. In terms of that Chelsea situation, it's sort of sprung with an opportunity for us, because straight away I'd be going, Rudiger on a free, you should be all over that. And now Chelsea are out of the equation, we should be all over Declan Rice. If this board are going to make any sort of headway, then Chelsea were the only competition for us. If City, maybe with Rice, but I think Rice is set up perfectly now that Chelsea can't buy anyone. And with Rudiger going on a free, United should be all over that, giving this next manager half a chance with a spine like that for Varane and Rudiger with Rice in front of them. You're sort of making a little bit of headway there. And that's two quality players, two very good leader-type players alongside of Varane already. You're looking like you've got half of the battle won there straight away. That manager needs that sort of backing. And all of them managers are going to need that calibre of player just to make it work for him, Beth. I don't think Pochettino, I don't want to disrespect the man, because he has got qualities. He really has. But in that bracket of managers, in that basket, he just doesn't come near him in what this club needs right now. I just don't think Pochettino is... I was told a long time ago that Pochettino's done. I'm sort of just praying that things happen and all of a sudden a change comes around. I understand the youth side of it and what he can do with the youth, but for me, I do believe the other managers can do the same. I mean, Tuchel wasn't an elite manager until he went to Chelsea, was he?
No.
There's a chance there. Chelsea took a chance on a manager that had a good reputation. Another failure at PSG, but we're all seeing how impossible that job is. Do you know what I mean? Built up his reputation like Klopp in Germany, came through. Chelsea took that chance with the right sort of managerial history as Klopp. Both come through that lower league of German football all the way through, and it's working for both of them. But you do need the tools for these managers to work. That's the ultimate problem, and that's why I think Ten Hag or Poch are probably the top runners for this board, because I don't believe they're going to have to spend as much money. If Conte was even approached, he'd tell them what he needed straight away and the board would collapse. I don't think Tuchel could do what he's doing at Chelsea at Manchester United unless that kind of investment, like I just said, then comes in, because like we said before, after that finishing team against Atletico is leaving in the summer. So they need the tools, Beth, to work, and any philosophy that these managers have got doesn't count for anything coming to Manchester United in the state we're in right now.
Well, that's the thing. When you look at Ten Hag, for me, who I massively want to get the job over someone like Pochettino, and they seem to be the front runners right now. He works so well with wingers. He works so well with his number 10, and I think Bruno massively needs that right now. He needs a coach and he needs discipline. There's a player there, but he needs coaching, and I think he could be seriously good. And I think we want that fresh manager to come in, and he's not going to need the same type of money, like you said, like a Conte, possibly a Tuchel, but you're still going to have to invest in him. And sometimes you've got to take chances, and I think any manager we get in right now is a risk. And I think they've all got the pros and cons. And I think it's not the be all and end all of what happens at Manchester United with what manager that comes in. I mean, the squad needs a massive clear out. And I think any manager that comes in is going to need some backing this summer, to be honest with you, with what we've got at the moment. And I think the squad needs a massive rebuild. We need players going out, and we need players coming in. Off the top of my head, you've got Lingard going on a free this summer. You've got Pogba going, who definitely will go now. You've got Ronaldo, who possibly will go now. If we don't get Champions League football. Cavani's on his way out. Matt is on his way out. Matic is on his way out. I mean, Baye's probably going to be on his way out because he wants more game time. You've got many, many players leaving Manchester United, and that's without saying the players that are out of form. You've got Rashford, who can't be starting next season as a first starter. He just can't be. You've got McTominay and Fred, who you can argue are squad players, but are going to have to start in our first team. You've got a captain that isn't good enough to start in the first 11, never mind be captain. And the question marks over both fullbacks. I think Dalot and Tellers have done really well at the moment, and I think there's definitely a player with Luke Shaw. So they're positions that you're probably going to have to put to the back of the queue. But Ricky, you're looking at 3 positions in summer, because I think max 3 signings we're going to get. What are you prioritising?
We definitely need another midfield player without a doubt, and we're gonna need a striker. I think Ronaldo and Cavani, I think they'll both be gone, so we're definitely going to need a striker. And
Martial has just spoke about how much he wants to leave.
Has he just said how much he wants to leave? Has he?
I mean, he's basically said basically that he wanted to leave for game time, and he said he's very happy in Sevilla, and the club knows what he wants at the end of the season. So I'm guessing that means he's on his way out.
I'd love it if we still have Martial, but you know, we definitely need a striker. I think striker and a central midfield player, they're the main 2. Yeah.
And do you think centre back wise are okay?
Not too bad. Varane and Lindelof. Obviously, Varane and Lindelof are both good. I think. Look, I've never been. I think we all know it. I said Maguire was a waste of money at 80 million quid when we first signed him, and I do think he's having a bit of a rough patch. But I will still stick by that. We have had a lot of good wins over the years. We've beat City 3 or 4 times where we've been under pressure throughout the game. I know we have to sit back in that, and you can get away with that with having, you know, a bit of a lack of pace. But I want to add that we're not playing cagily enough. We're not playing defensively enough again. I've just spoken about Simeone. Simeone schooled us last night. Last night, we should have had, and I think I might have said this on the show last week, we should have had McTominay, Matic and Fred all playing, and Bruno shouldn't have been playing. You can only play 11. We've got 2 wingers, we've got a centre forward, and we've got Bruno. It's too many attacking players. I've just said I wouldn't have minded Simeone running us. If Simeone was running us, we probably would have had. Obviously, you can't say for certain, but look how he sets his team up. He probably would have had McTominay, Matic and Fred all playing. Now, as much as it's a blow about your players that are supposedly creative players that everybody loves, I say it till I'm blue in the face. You can only play 11, and you've got to have those players who are behind the ball most of the time. You know, some people who don't get it might say, yeah, but that goal came from this. If you've got 3 more defensive-minded players rather than 2, maybe you don't even end up in that situation. Maybe you've won balls earlier in the game that have kept you on the offensive, keeping them back. So you're just a more solid unit. So if we'd have started with those 3, maybe it was 0-0 at half time. We'll never know, of course, but maybe it was 0-0 at half time instead of 1-0 down, and you're not chasing the game. And once you're chasing the game, which happened to us, we became a shambles. All 3 of our more solid midfield players should have started. And that's what would have done under a manager like Simeone. Make sure you're still in the game. Make sure you're not chasing the game.
I mean, it'd help if we had depth in midfield to even do that, which we don't have, and that's a reason why we need midfield as well. Kev, 3 positions you think we need to prioritise in the summer?
I was just trying to think then. I think I've made it out about 7. I just went through the team then and I thought I'd keep De Gea, Varane, and then I've gone further forward, Sancho, Elanga, and then I'm like, what I said earlier, and I stick by it, is how I feel disconnected. I said I was a fan of Bruno Fernandes, but recently he's driven me up the wall. He drove me insane last night. I don't know whether he's trying to put in some kind of audition tape for actually joining Atletico Madrid. The way he was carrying on, petulant, throwing his toys out the pram, that kind of spin move he does, holding his ankle, and you're like, come on, mate, just get up and get on with it. What are you doing? You know, I don't know. It's the way I look at it. I think we need a central defender. I think, as Adam says, Rudiger would be absolutely brilliant. I think you could fix the right-hand side if you brought in a player like Lamptey. Midfield-wise, I think it's obvious that we are this donut because there's just nothing in the middle. It does not work. So Declan Rice would obviously be lovely, but would it happen? Are United going to stump the money up? Could you get Kante out of Chelsea? You know what I mean? I'm dreaming here now and finish it off with Haaland up front. Need a bit of that. I am dreaming here, but
I've just seen a super chat here from Vincent McDonald saying we need a centre-back, 2 midfielders, a striker and Ten Hag, and I couldn't agree more. I think that's massively what we need to prioritise. And do you know what bugs me as well? Haaland's probably going to end up going City, which
he is.
And then we're now probably going to be in Europa League. How much of a struggle is that going to be to attract players as well, Adam?
Well, this is it. People will always say, look, United hold that name. Players will still come to United all the time, even if they're out of the Champions League. Well, it's moving on now. We're getting past that. I mean, Liverpool found out exactly what it was like after years of not competing. Now we're coming up. Everyone's talking about 5 people on the radio today, 8 years before United are challenging for a title. And then you're creeping up to where he was before Sir Alex Ferguson came and we won our first league title. You know what I mean? You're creeping into the nether regions of a second decade there of not even challenging for the title, which we haven't. The false second in the league positions are what they are, false. 20-odd points behind the title winners still ain't good enough. So it is still poor for United standards. But it's like, when do we accept them? So do we have to accept them standards? Like Ricky's talking about being defensive and cagey. And then you'd get the old school United fan saying, we can't be like that. It's not the United way. The United way has disappeared. The United way has disappeared.
Did you watch the video of Mourinho that put in the group chat last night of him going on? That was 4 years ago of him saying, this is football heritage. We've dropped out of Europe time and time again, or possibly not even made it. Sometimes you just got to reset. You're not at that level.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, it's going to be hard for United fans to accept. But I talked earlier on in the show about this new generation of football fan. And they're all clinging on to like their favourite players. This player shouldn't play. We shouldn't play Bruno. Pogba's the best player at the football club. This is what the fan base is like now. The conversation isn't about challenging formations, tactics, and structure. It's about individual players who are better and they think should be playing. It's not going to work. And that, for me, is a clear sign that this fan base doesn't know where it is right now with it. Well, it's not deluded, but they've been brainwashed by the structure of this football club after all these years. In terms of the players we need to bring in the summer, got on with Kev on it, 11. I know we would like to bring in, I know the right players, but the club won't spend that money, not in one summer. For us to actually get, let's just say, get back in the top 4, challenge for the top 4 again, because the league is over the horizon, forget it. So obviously the manager coming in is priority number 1, but then it is the centre forward. My God, the centre forward. And Harry Kane wasn't great on Saturday, but that goal for Harry Maguire, the own goal, the centre forward play that he produced there in holding up 3 of our defenders, that's the centre forward United need right now. And not Harry Kane specifically, but of that ilk. A player like that who can hold the ball up. We haven't got anyone now who can hold the ball up. We can just ping the ball into it. It's not there. a good proper centre forward, a number 9. None of this. It's like wing attacking forwards. We need a 9 for
like
me.
A prime Cavani.
Perfect, yeah.
Not
Perfect
a past
number 9 because
injured Cavani.
You've got a little bit of future there in Alango and Sancho. Good wingers. Now let's get a proper number 9. Someone who will just stay there, not be sent out wide, converted into another position. Just stay there. Do a number 9's role. Central midfield, 100%. And centre back, they're the 3 priorities. I am considering fullbacks as well, but I know this football club, I would accept. And I know we've got cover, so-called cover, but we're not going to get Harry Maguire out of the team unless we bring a player in that demands a starting spot like Varane. Rudiger would come in and go, shows your medals, son, like Jay would say, straight away and go, you ain't playing in front of me. Lindelof will sit in the background. Bailly's kicking off way out in the background. I don't know what's happened to him. But you need a man to come in and say, like Varane, it's like, yeah, I ain't sitting on the bench. That's the only way you get Maguire out of that spot. So you do need a centre-back, a quality one, and there's one right there in Rudiger.
I've got to go for Rudiger.
Right under the noses.
Don't have to spend money on. Yeah, his wages may be big, but you're about to get rid of some of the biggest wage bills in the Premier League this summer. There's room. Cavani, Ronaldo, and Pogba, their wages alone. My God, there you go, Rudiger. There you go, Rice. Let's not worry about the wage structure. Get that centre forward. But then again, I take my head out of FIFA mode and realise what football club we're at right now. And you start to worry again, don't you? That's what it is. But by the way, Beth, I'm all for some of them younger players getting more of a chance coming from that youth system this summer as well. And if you offered me a couple of them and maybe a couple of signings, you know what? I'd work with that and build from there.
I agree. I think there's a lot of good talent in our youth. That obviously they can't come into starting 11, but having them as squad players, having players
Gardner's looking good,
hungry to play, that's exactly what you want. And I mean, looking back again on the Champions League, I'm just thinking now you've got like Pogba's been decent this season, but you've got like Pogba coming off the bench, Cavani coming on the bench. They're probably not asked about going out because they both know they're probably playing there next year because they're not staying this summer. And this is again to do with the management from the club. The way we're letting Martial go, we're keeping Cavani who can never play. It's just very, very, very poor management.
Like I said last night, what do we normally call this time of the season? As United fans, like Ricky will say, careful, no, this was squeaky bum time. You're heading into spring. This is it. We've got a 3-week break.
Yeah, the business end of the season.
What? 3 weeks off. This is supposed to be the business end. Like Kev said, it's like,
out of everything.
We're twiddling thumbs watching other teams play. It's like, this is unheard of. 9 games left this season. Can you believe that? 9 games. That's all we've got.
Everyone keep your Thursdays free next season because here we go. A competition we might actually compete in. Ricky, you sent me this a message through the other day where it was saying about getting to the Europa League wouldn't be the end of the world. What, do you think it's acceptable to be playing in the Europa League?
Of course, it's not acceptable. You know, it's not acceptable for us even to be outside the top 2. We used to always be first or second, didn't we? Usually first. So it's not acceptable, but you've got to be also realistic. I said at the start of the programme that we've still got a chance at top 4. You know, Arsenal have got some tough fixtures in hand, you know, so we've definitely still got a chance at top 4. But the last thing we want to be is in that Conference League. That is the last thing we want. You know, if somebody was to say to me, it's going to be Europa League right now, I probably wouldn't take it right now. But let's say, let's just say Arsenal managed to beat Liverpool tonight. If Arsenal managed to beat Liverpool tonight, there'll be 4 points in front of them. Have I got this right? Will there be 4 points in front of us with 2 games in hand?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah. If they're 4 points in front of us with 2 games in hand and somebody says to me, you'll be in the Europa League next season, then I'd probably say, go on, I'll take that. You know what I mean? But I'm hoping that it doesn't come to that. We don't want to be in that conference.
Yeah, you've got Spurs there who've got a game in hand of us, and if they win that game in hand, they're only 1 point behind us. I mean, it's going to be.
Oh yeah, it's tight. Yeah, even West Ham are not out of it yet, are they?
They're a point behind us, aren't they? Or 2.
They're 2 points behind us. And I'm not going to lie, guys. When I've compared our fixtures to the likes of Arsenal, I don't think it's looking hopeful.
Well, look at it this way, Bev. Like Ricky said there. Yeah, I said it last night. I said, yeah, I could see West Ham, Arsenal, and Spurs all having bad runs, but I can't see United stringing 3 wins together. And just to add on to that, the Arsenal game, you're looking at the games. We've got Arsenal away, Liverpool away in a week. That will be the determined week when we know exactly where we're going. That will finish us off, I think, because I don't see us beating either of them teams away. And that in the same week, it's just one of them weeks where you just go, oh, shit. That's just one of them. It's just the way the fixtures have fallen. It's Arsenal and Liverpool both away in a week. And April, I think the season will be over officially then probably. I think because we have to beat Arsenal at their place. That's a given to even have any chance, I think, of making it. And our record there is shocking at the moment, as well as it is at Anfield. So, and like you said, the players have checked out, Beth.
The thing is, though, Adam, knowing United, we'd go and play Arsenal and beat them and then lose against, I don't know, who've got coming up, but one of the bottom half of the table sides.
I'll tell you what, someone said to it, so best line I got last night outside doing the fan vlog, said, what have we got left to look forward to? When, we got a weekend away in Brighton in May. That's it. That's it, a weekend in Brighton. That's it, Jolly Boys outing.
You can get your flights booked, Adam, to God knows where next season.
Oh, I don't even want to think about that. I don't. Made up his stand or something like that. I don't know.
And now we've got to go and watch Arsenal and Liverpool and watch them play and hope for a result. That is where we're at. And that's just getting the Champions League as well. That's not even considering league places. It's crazy how far we've fallen, but hopefully we just got to look forward to next season now, because for me this season I don't have much hope left. But thank you, Ricky, for coming on.
Thank you, enjoyed it.
Yep, hopefully you have to watch the game now.
I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Kev, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me as always, and good to see Ricky. Not often.
Nice one, Kev. Good to see you.
Shows. Loving the setup as well, mate. I can't work out whether you look like some pantomime villain and like some Don Italian. Or just ready to
that's the one I go.
I don't think I said it. I don't think I said it at the start of the show, but I'm not at home tonight, so I've got no control over the lighting. So apologies.
And the other one I was going to say, he looks like CBeebies, you know, where they do bedtime story with Ricky. Like he's ready to just whip a book out.
I've not seen that for ages.
We don't get you on for the lighting, Ricky. We get you on for the words of wisdom. So it's all good. It's all good. And thank you as well for coming on, Adam.
Yeah, cheers. It was a pleasure as always. Do tune in to tomorrow's fan forum where we have a new member of the team making a debut tomorrow as well, guys, live. So tune into that one as well.
I'll be watching. And thank you, everyone, for the comments. Thank you for the likes. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and we can all continue the therapy stand together. But thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.